Whether it be exciting if Hillary Clinton is president because she's a woman, okay, but is she the best person for the job? That's what you have to ask yourself. I think with this kind of clown car of nominees, it's not that difficult to figure out, but I think we have to ask ourselves, because we're looking at a new normal in our reality. We have to ask ourselves, because the day you go in and you're president, presidents run on all these platforms, they say all these things, but the day you go in and become debriefed, until that day, you don't know what it means to be president, because they can't tell you. They can't tell the nominees, this is what you are going to do. Nobody knows. The only one that's running that knows is Hillary Clinton. She is actually the only one that knows what the job of president is. She's the only one that was Secretary of State. It's like you look back over history and you think about who was vice president, who had all other jobs in history and then became president. And how did those presidencies go, comparatively speaking? It's a game changer.
I know you said on Colbert last night that you were reading a book about presidents or former presidents becoming.
Too, and it's a book I would really recommend, because I learned a lot and am learning a lot reading it. It's called the President's Club. And it talks about from the very beginning, like when George Washington became president. You know, they asked him, did he want to be called Your Excellency, or did he want to be called, he said he wanted to be called Mr. President. And he made that. How long would his term be? Would it be for his whole life, or would there be terms? He chose that there would be terms and a democratic election. He chose. And so then, when there were more presidents, these presidents could look back on other presidents and ask them for their advice, because only they had had these experiences. And it talks about how Truman reached to Hoover, because Hoover had been involved in the war. And he had all of these things about feeding people when they were starving, and soldiers starving, and people who were starving from the war, and how they got together, and all the things that they developed, and all of these governmental bodies that they developed together, and how presidents, when they call back, how Clinton called back on Bush Sr., and all the things that they developed together, and how these presidents call back on former presidents and work together, and what they do, and how it helps the presidency to work with former presidents and why. And it's quite intriguing, because only the presidents have the experience to know what happens in the presidential body. And they only have the clearance to speak to them. So it's really fascinating, and it's really, to my mind, quite educational and informative. And it does help us in the selective process to understand why experience is so important in this selection, and particularly now when we're in such global crisis.
So you're back in primetime TV. Tell me about this new show, Agent X, which you star in, and you're also an executive producer.
Well, I am the executive producer of this show, Agent X, which is on TNT on Sunday nights, and this gorgeous man plays my secret agent who wouldn't want